I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll call the meeting to order. And it looks like 8th Judicial District is first.
I'd start with a couple of introductions. Well, I'll just introduce. I always travel in a pack. Chris Ann Phipps, if you just wave or stand or something, Chris Ann, is the one, and I know you know her, Diane. Kent, you may not. She's our new Community Corrections Director. And she's the luckiest person in the room because she really has nothing to do with any of this. But since she is a large part of the functioning of the 8th Judicial District and she's new, she's been joining us on our tour around the district. And I don't know, Chris Ann, did you have anything you wanted to say? Okay, very good. But she's been on board for a few months now, and we're really, really pleased. Things seem to be going very well. So, Ed Wheeler is our court trustee, of course. Nikki Davenport, court administrator, and I think you need to come up here.
I'd be happy to.
And I'm sure know Jan Helmer, clerk of the court, and then Lois Smith is our chief court services officer. I'll be presenting on 3 separate budgets, and these people, other than Chris Ann, all have parts of those budgets, so that's why. And then, of course, we got Courtney Bain, the county attorney here, and Courtney's here because of what I want to start with. Nikki's given, what have you given them?
I've given them all 3 budgets. The first one is the Marion County budget. The second one is the district budget, and then the third is the court trustee budget.
You don't really need to look at any of them yet because I want to pitch you something, and it affects the Marion County District Court budget. But what I'm going to ask you to do is approve a cash outlay now. Well, it doesn't have to be today, but before the end of the year. And if you do, then our budget will go down. And, you know, where are you going to find it? I don't know. Sales tax, wherever magic pocket you guys come up with. But it's going to be in our budget if we can't get it now, but let me explain. Our remote video equipment upstairs is dead, and it's not coming back. We got it in 2005. I don't know if either of you have actually gone upstairs and paid any attention. Well, yeah, you for swearing in ceremony, you've been in there. But above your head was that camera thing hanging out that it is a drop-down screen it projected onto. And we used that for our remote connections with Osawatomie State Hospital, Larned State Hospital, Junction City Juvenile Detention Center, things of that nature. To the best of what we can tell, it was a lightning storm here a couple months ago, and Tina does know about that, and I don't know if there's going to be any insurance benefits to you or not from it. I don't know what your deductible is, but to replace it, we've got a bid or a quote, if you will, that was $16,000. They did say they could probably drop that amount lower if we would be able to go okay with some wireless stuff, but I'm really hinky about wireless because what's going to be projected on that, in addition to mental illness commitment proceedings and stuff, we also use it in trials. The attorneys hook their laptops to it and put pictures up, and we have, you know, child abuse cases, things where you don't want somebody being able to get that accidentally somehow. Whether they would or not, I don't know. But here's my point is that we're going to be a lot of $1,000s to replace that equipment. What I would like to do, and this has been done in conjunction with the Bar Association and the Law Library trustees. They had approached us about doing some things so we could upgrade our courtroom from a technological standpoint, so that when they come in and present a case, that we don't have to run cables clear across the room and have tripping risks and things of that nature. And I think Courtney's going to talk about our last jury trial when the I pretty much saved the day on this with my innovative way of having something for her to project off of. I found a step ladder in the vault, and we set the projector up on that. But in any event, we want to, rather than go back in and put in a piece of equipment that may be outdated, you know, and it still would work, but it would have that one purpose. What we can go to by putting in, I'm going to ask for $15,000. That's upfront going to tell you. We've got it in the budget for this upcoming year, but we would like to do it sooner. For $15,000, I can authorize, I'm willing to authorize from the Court Technology Fund that the district controls $12,000. And the Marion County Bar Association and Law Library trustees are willing to authorize payment of $10,000 from the Law Library funds, which would put us at $37,000. And that would, Nick, would you give one of these to? Okay, here's one for the county clerk and one for each commissioner.
He has a label on it.
Yes, I do have them.
There you go.
I'm sorry, Brad, I didn't think to make another copy of it if you want one.
That's all.
I'll make one.
That, what you see is the quote we received from the company that is going to be doing work in Gary County really soon. Big project up there, and what we're doing in all 4 courtrooms in Gary County is very similar to what we're going to be doing here, would like to be doing here. It just hinges on the money from the Court Technology Fund, the money from the bar and trustees is given. We just need money from the county. So my pitch is, we need the 15, and I think you'll spend it now or spend it later, but I don't think there's a way to get around spending it, and here's why. Yes, you could say we don't care if they're able to have good evidence presentations and put things up on screen or whatever, and you could say tough, we're not doing it. But we've got to be able to connect remotely with those other locations, and if not, the Sheriff's Department is going to be, as a for instance, in a mental commitment situation. What normally happens is Courtney, I shouldn't speak for her, but Courtney gets a call and says that we've got this person we think needs to be committed. They're a danger to themselves or others. There's a quick, I shouldn't say quick, but the initial review of that person is done by Prairie View Mental Health, and they say, yes, we think there's a commitment needed. The person then is generally sent to Larned, could be Osawatomie, generally Larned, and but that has to be reviewed by the court the next time that we're available. And that's a probable cause hearing where evidence needs to be presented. That's done by video. And then the court, you know, significant amount of the time finds that there is probable cause, so the person is then committed for 7 to 14 days for evaluation, and then you have another hearing, unless they sign themselves in or get discharged. You have another hearing to determine whether they should be committed for up to 90 days. Those 2 hearings, if we don't do them by video, it means that the Sheriff's Department on Monday morning is going to have that person from Larned or Osawatomie back here. We're going to have the hearing, and then most of the time they're going to go back again, and then 7 to 14 days later they're going to go get them again. Then they're likely to go take them back again. Same thing with the detention center for juveniles. So a lot of money gets involved there. In the long run, I think the sheriff would agree, and I haven't talked to him about it, but I think it's not rocket science, that he would rather not make those trips. So, and Courtney, would you just talk about why the bar wants to do the project from your side?
Yeah, so the other primary use of it would be in the courtroom by the attorneys. So both the criminal and the domestic attorneys, private. For criminal, we have contested hearings, bench trials, jury trials. We had a jury trial in May, and as the judge mentioned, we had to borrow a projector from Geary County, had it brought down here. We had a step stool we had it set on. We had cords going across.
We had jurors having to climb over that to get to the jury box, but it was the only option that we had because we didn't have another way to present it. And that case relied very heavily on, it was a surveillance video, so we had to use that. So from my point of view, I think it's definitely necessary for the video conferencing with Larna Osawatomie and Gary, but then also for evidence presentation. The other attorneys need it for that, the evidence, but also we're looking at getting some USB connectors at the two tables so they can just link their either laptop, iPad in and instantly put the information up on the screen instead of having to, right now it's just we don't really have a way of doing that. And so that would just kind of streamline that, so it would make dockets and make trials go smoother because the presentation of the evidence would be that much more seamless. So that's why I don't want to speak for the entire bar, but we've had bar meetings, we've discussed it, and that was kind of the general consensus is being able to easily show photos, documents to the judge, to the jury. So that would be a way we could do it.
I'll just speak for Jan, because every time an attorney, and almost every major trial anymore, some attorney wants to present video evidence or video argument, and every time Jan goes into a book. What we've got now is we've got a VCR, we've got a DVD player, we've got connections to the computer, we've got all these things. They're each purchased, nothing's integrated. This would be an integrated system. Okay. If I can let that lay for a minute and ask you to give your attention to the Marion County budget proposal. And the second page in particular, that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. The right-hand column is our proposal for 2019. The middle column is what was budgeted for 2018. And as you go down those lists, you'll see that, it may be up a little here and down a little there, but when you get to the very bottom, it goes from 183.2 to 199.5. But if you take off the 15 that we've got in there, and this is not lined up exactly right, but the 15 is the project that I'm just talking about. You take that off, and I think we're within like 1,000 and change of presenting a budget that's identical to 2018. They're just not you will notice that there's $2,000 again included for CASA. And have they come to meet with you folks recently? Okay, Nick, we need to mention that. They need to come in and talk with the commission soon. What's the deadline for getting your budget decisions made?
I think we still have this whole month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
June,
yeah. I know in July we get
maybe
more
very early
serious,
July.
but
Okay.
They need
So
to come
we
in
can
and.
make an exception if it's not too far
Okay.
down.
Some of the counties, I know Morris has just literally, they've been funding CASA, but they lifted it out of our budget, just create, I don't know if it's in just the commissioner, I don't know where it is, but they've just got a different line item. We put it in ours a few years ago just to accommodate it being somewhere so they could make a request. I'll make a little pitch for them. I've been here a long time. CASA right now seems to me to be functioning at the highest level it has in the 27 years I've observed it. And they have now moved into Marion County. For the longest time, it was everywhere in the district but Marion County. We do now have I just swore in 2 new Marion County CASA volunteers, both young men from Hillsborough, the other day. So we're getting our own people as opposed to having somebody come over from Council Grove or Junction City. So I think that's money very well spent, but they need to come talk to you about it. So if you want to fund it, and I hope you do, you can leave it in our budget, you can take that with her. That's what the 2,000 is.
Okay.
And that is not really a change from previous years. The 15 is the thing that's really different here. But again, if you take out the 15, the budget has changed very, very little. And if you have any questions about that, I'll be glad to try to answer them. Nikki, what did the Marion percentage of the district budget go to? Okay. Yeah, your percentage of the total district budget has gone up, and if you look at about 2/3 of the way down the page, you'll see district expense on the left. In the middle, last year, your district expense was $9,659. This year it goes up to $12,270. That's one of the other budgets that you've been handed is the district budget. It's up district-wide only $2,000 in a $120,000 budget from 120 to 122. That district percent is based on total number of cases filed in each county, and not for 2018, because obviously we don't know 2018 numbers. It's based on 2017's numbers. So the Marion County's numbers are up based on 2017.
And that budget starts on the third page there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, thank you. Yeah, you've got the district budget there as well. What we actually will be asking you to do is approve the Marion County district budget, which includes your portion of the district budget, and then the district budget, and then Ed will talk to you in just a second. But any questions about anything?
I don't know much about CASA, but if they come in, I'll find out. But if you just want to give us a 2 cents, what is CASA?
It stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocate. They're used generally in child and needed care cases. Once in a while, you may use one in a juvenile offender or even a domestic case, but primarily child needed care. And it's a situation where you've got, sometimes, you'll have 4 kids, and I've got one case where there's 4 kids, and within that, there's 2 moms and 2 dads, but they're all kind of connected, and they've all been lived. These kids have all been together, and so you've got an attorney who's the guardian ad litem who's appointed for each child, but they're also looking kind of big picture at the whole case. And the court-appointed special advocate is they're trained lay people. They're not lawyers who just work with the kids, and they just advocate for the kids, and that's the short and sweet of it, I think.
And that area has been pretty explosive, hasn't it?
Yes. And it's not getting better. And Ed Wheeler is the most popular man in the room because he wants you to approve his budget, but it costs you no money.
Yeah, you can do your happy dance here.
Okay.
We finance
Okay.
the court trustee's office all through fees that we receive for collection of child support and unpaid court costs and bonds. So our promise has always been the doors will remain open as long as we can generate fees to pay the trustees. So
Awesome.
we're doing pretty good about that. We've gone through some tough times, but we survived that. May look do a little tweaking in 2019, but we're self-sufficient, so we don't ask for any funds. Your blessing. So.
Very good. Thank you.
I always like to bring in Ed because my operation is not self-sufficient. We're totally on the dole, and
Not us.
we want your money, but not it.
And we're one of the few trustees offices in the state that run that one. There's several bigger ones that they rely heavily on their county and fund.
The last person here that I won't throw Lois under the bus, well, I guess I kind of am, but I'm not.
Bye,
The district expense is up just a couple of grand, and if you look at court services, they're up a couple of grand, and that's because they're in need of a new copy of it.
Yes, sir.
Simple as what that is. So that's my song and dance. I'm ready to be hooked off the stage.
Well, that was pretty brief, pretty simple.
I can do it.
Mhm.
I could.
Good
If I
job.
wasn't a lawyer, it would have been shorter yet.
Okay.
And again, don't get me wrong, I am not pushing you, but we've gotten by the last, well, Courtney left, the last couple of hearings, I've kind of cheated, and we've done 2 commitment things on the phone. But that's just a stopgap emergency. I really can't do that long term. So that's not a threat, it's not anything, it's just the reality of the situation. Because you haven't had a chance even to address it sometimes, so.
Right, right.
So if you decide to go, to come up, if you can, and come up with 15 grand and are willing to, I guess let us know so we can get rocking and rolling.
Sounds good. We'll try to get to that here in the next week or so.
This is something you
Yeah.
want to get done by year end?
Yeah, they basically have told us that they're, and Dan, correct me if I misstate this, but I think that if we say go, they're ready to go. The Gary County project, through no offense of the county commissioners at all, but through the bizarre way that Gary County Bar does things, has gone on for 2 years now. But they're, I think, gonna be served pretty quick too. But I'd like to beat them because theirs will take, it's a bigger project.
So the sooner the better.
Yeah, I guess that's the non-polite way to say it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
Sounds
guys.
great.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
And here's your pin bag. If you do come up with questions, give us a call.
We sure will.
Thanks,
Thank you.
thanks, Judge.
I don't need you to make some copies a little bit later then for the press, a little short.
Okay.
Okay. So, next on the agenda then is administrative. Tina.
Okay. I have the minutes of June 11th and June 13th.
I have a question about the June 11th.
Okay?
Need to, on the part when we were talking about the wind farm fines, was that fine 5,000?
Yes.
It was 5,000?
Yes.
Because I'd heard another outside the door, a different figure, so,
No, it was 5,000.
okay. That's the only question I have.
Okay?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Kent. All in favor, say aye.
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 For both dates?
I was.
Over June 11th?
I did June 11th,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
So then we want to just go right into June 13th,
I'll make a motion to approve the June 13th minutes.
and I'll second it. So we have a motion to accept the minutes as written on June 13th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there you go.
Okay, I have some early checks.
I think these were all in our packet. I remember looking at them.
Yes, they were.
There you go. have Josh Clevenger, 1 year raise as an AMT from 1352 to 1377. And we have Kyle Isaac as a 1 year raise as an EMT from 1250 to 1275. And finally, we have Robert Church, a 1 year raise as a paramedic from 1556 to 1581.
Several months ago, you approved the purchase of the security system for the courthouse. And so that's moving forward. It looks like in July, we will be working towards installation of that. But the sheriff has given the information, we are going to need 2 portable radios to make that system work. And since we just bought a bunch of radios, we have a current quote, and the person from Motorola said that they would give it to us at the same price that we purchased our other radios. So it would be $1,525 each for the 2 portables that we need, plus $34.63 each for the chargers. So we're going to need to have approval to move forward with the purchase
That
of those units.
wasn't included in the security system quote?
No, that's separate. The radios are separate.
But we knew at the time that we had to have them? Or did
I
we-
believe Rob knew, yes.
So I guess we need them. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the purchase of 2 additional portable radios at $1525 and the charger at $34.63 each. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kent. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Just wanted to give you some follow-up information. When we had our budget work session, we talked about our state assessed value had increased quite a bit, and part of it was for railroads. And I did hear back from the state on that, and they are saying that we should include the railroad value, that it is correct, and that there are no concerns on that. Apparently, some of that information that was going around may not have been correct
Oh, well.
as well.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, then the only other issue that I really have to bring to you is on the mowing of the properties from the tax sale. Right now, I've got a staff member that's compiling a list of those properties and photos, and then we'll move forward when we know what's what. But we do have 7 or 8 properties in the city of Peabody, and one of them was a property that we had from the last tax sale, and they've already mowed that property. That was really high. They're holding on to that invoice, which is $200, because that's what they charge to mow. And they mowed all the other properties, but they mowed them before they changed hands to the county. So I don't believe they can bill the county for those. Moving forward, I believe their city council discussed working with the county, or how could we work together to get these mowed, in lieu of us just going out and getting bids and hiring someone. And I got a call, and I don't know if you're interested in pursuing this at all, but they have a road over there, which is it's the Prairie Lawn Road. It's their little rock road that goes over by Dollar General, and they would like the county to come and clean the ditches and put culverts and rock that road. And if we can do the labor for that, they said they will mow our properties all summer at no charge. Now, I don't know if we're already on a connecting, if we're already working with them on that road. I mean, Jesse would have to, let us know, but building a road versus mowing some properties, probably not.
Is that a connecting link?
Well, that's what I'm gonna find out, because if we're already, there's some sort of an agreement in place, we need to make sure that, I don't know when it's scheduled. Also, obviously, the city would have to provide the materials in a situation like that. They'd have to pay for the supplies. But anyway, I didn't know if it's something that you're interested in pursuing, or whether you'd want them to get with Jesse to see, or if you want to talk to Jesse before and get more information before.
Yeah, I'd like to know if it's a connecting link.
Okay.
I'd like to know some more information, costs and all
Mhm.
that. And I will also say that $200 price tag for mowing a property is alarming to me. And talking to other communities and things that are mowing properties and things, they're not charging $200, but they sure will if we pay one other community $200. So I think we really need to address that.
Well, the way we're addressing it, because we had to pay it last year, that's what they charge, and that's what their ordinance says for mowing.
Mhm.
So, but what we are doing is we're looking at bidding that out for the rest of the mowing season. Which, if it's as
Yeah.
dry as it has been, it may not be very long mowing season either, so.
Yeah, I think we need to do that because that $200 price tag is just not gonna make it for long. I'm getting slack on that one. Well, I have a lot of people who have volunteered to mow all of our properties.
I
for
know.
$200.
Okay. That was all I had.
I have a question. You had said I think it was last week, that you had hired a third party to review the IT.
Yes.
Who is that third party?
That third party is, I'll have to go look at the name of the company.
Okay. And do you know what that cost us?
It's an hourly not to exceed $1,000.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested to know who that is. I was kind of asked and I forgot all about it last week.
I know the gentleman's name, I just don't remember his company name. I'll have to go look that up. I think it's Blue Valley or something.
It's not local.
Craig Williams. No.
Where they out of?
Go get all
Oh,
that.
okay. Well,
I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't have that
okay.
with me.
Since you said local, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah,
And when it comes to IT, I don't know, there's not a lot of local. Anyway. So did you have a good Father's Day today?
I'm feeling all that well, so no, I'm just gonna let it pass.
Oh. Well, that's not good.
Diane, speaking of those links, how about Morris County go, or did you?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up next.
Oh, okay. Connecting link, I guess they call it. I always think missing link for some reason.
What do you refer to it as?
Missing link. I don't know. I
Oh.
always think missing link.
Well, that's just kind of a cliche, I guess. Well, we're way ahead today again. How are you?
That stuff. All right.
Good.
I got it pretty good.
Server worked for us before. I had never met the gentleman until the other day when he came and looked at the proposals. And he is planning to come next week and be on the agenda and go through all of the proposals with you in detail, so that you understand them all. So that's kind of where we are with that.
So then-
And the address for the vendor is Home Kansas, which I didn't even know there was such a home.
Not either. I've heard of it. Really?
Okay, so that's where they're out of.
It's old home.
Yeah, so. Okay.
So will we be doing anything in cooperation with the vendors coming in like we had discussed?
What will happen is he will come in, he'll go through all of the proposals with you in detail. That will be closed session for proprietary, so that you understand how they're going to provide service. And then once you have that session with him, if there are vendors that you want to personally interview, that's the next step.
Okay.
So you will be able to schedule that with my staff to get them in here for a meeting. Okay?
Okay,
All
sounds
right.
good.
Uh-huh.
So then we're way ahead again of schedule. So I will bring up, 2 weeks ago I think it was, that we had the resolution from Morris County about doing our connecting link, and their proposal bid was 24,000 something. And of course, Jesse said that he could do it for 17, and the commission had talked and decided to go talk to Morris County to see if they would accept the $17,500 bid to do that connecting link for us. Of course, respectfully, they declined and said that they have learned a long time ago that they don't do that kind of work. And so if they can't do it the right way, they're not going to do it. So I thought that I would just bring that up to the commission because that was the end of the discussion there. So, and then while we have a little bit of time, I have one other question for council if I can, and that's on the IT. I had a question about, we had a bidder who you must have talked to Tina about, it had got caught in the spam. And so I was reading the requirements and the way it was written, and my question is, and I remember from past experience working, and I understand that technology is lovely when it works, but when it gets, because sometimes there's a dual responsibility, and I correct like two people who all play the wrong time or something, and you share that. I'm under the impression, as I read the way the bid was written, that there may be a dual responsibility, because it does say that it is responsibility. Well, first off, it does say that bids will be submitted to Marion County Clerk's office by 5 o'clock on, mine don't have a date on it, but whatever date it was. And then it says the responsibility of the bidder to confirm receipt by Marion County, but it doesn't say by when. It doesn't say that they need to confirm that by the close of the bid date. I mean, one would assume, but do we assume? So because it's written that way, question that I have, do we just automatically disregard that bid because it was presented on time, got caught in the spam filter?
No, not necessarily. You can certainly consider it because there's a good faith effort on their part. On the other side of that, if you choose not to, you really do have latitude to go either way. It is the responsibility of the bidder to confirm receipt by Marion County, and that follows the remainder of the, have it there by 5 o'clock Wednesday, May 30th. So I think there's a sufficient implicit message as to make sure that it's timely and that they did receive it within the time frame as specified for the deadline. Also, as I understood it, they didn't go ahead and submit their insurance proof until the following day, which would have been after the time. However, again, I'll go back to my original statement. They made a good faith effort. They did go ahead and submit something. It did get here. They can show that it got caught in our spam filter. If you want to consider that as one of the bids, I don't see any issue with that at all. So it really kind of comes down to how technical the commission wants to be about that element of it. But I wouldn't have any issue with you considering it as an active bid.
Okay. So, did say, I think somewhere I read something that we need to decide if we want that to be included in the.
I think you already did.
But it said
Basically what,
continued in the minutes. It said continued, I think.
right, and he's just given you the go-ahead that it's fine with him. So I think
Okay.
you're done. I don't think
Okay.
you need to take any additional
Right.
action.
I don't either.
Okay,
Good.
perfect
So-
then. That answers that question. So, do you have anything you want to add, Kent? We have time.
No.
Randy, do you have anything that,
Has anybody discussed, addressed it?
no, we haven't discussed that at all. Do you want to make a discussion on that?
Not
A
no discussion,
presentation?
I'd just like to first of all, say thank you to the volunteers that put it on. Second, to the workers of Marion County Lake, the three out there, it was all three out there and worked with that all day. I think that probably the turnout was maybe a little lighter due to the heat and stuff, but all in all, when you fill up the whole campgrounds with campers, besides the other side, whether the campers go down and pay the $5 or whatever, the wristband deal, but just to fill up our campgrounds is worth a whole bunch to us. And when I left at 11 something, there was still under it's a makeshift little, little pavilion, not the one stage, but up there in the campground, and there was still some people, not amplified, but just having to get together, play music. So, it's just, it says what Marion County is to me, and so I just like to say thank you to all the people that was involved in it. That's all I have.
So it sounds successful.
I don't know that, I really don't. I don't know what their funds were or anything like that, but it was a little lighter crowd according to people that's been there 3 and 4 years that I talked to in the crowd. They said, yeah, a little lighter this year. And so, but I think that's, publication maybe was not the best this year. They feel that they need to publicize a little more than what they do. So, but it was a good deal.
So the work that we did out there with the electrical and everything.
That was a big thank you from them, yeah.
Okay. Sounds
Not
good.
have to worry about generators to go make sure they have gas, make sure they have plenty of power, so, yeah. And I think that's not only good for that deal, I think it's good for other things to be brought to the lake if we can just get somebody that, like Isaac or somebody wants to take over and help push.
Sure. Sounds good. Anybody have anything else? That's all you have to report?
I've got a lot to report, but nobody else wants to listen.
If you have anything else, you got 15 minutes.
Oh, we got a lot of time.
We do have a lot of time. I'm wondering if we should maybe shorten up some of these interviews from time to time. We find ourselves here sitting quite a bit lately.
Well, normally the judicial district talks a little longer. They typically, that was a very short budget presentation for them.
Well,
And then I shrunk the administrative down to 20 minutes, where it used to be 40 minutes at every meeting, so.
Judge Pryor must have had a headache today then. He said, well, there was a lot of people out here. Is there something going on in court today?
Choosable docket is in
Okay.
30.
I'm gonna say that's the biggest push there probably.
Do you want to take a little bit of time and go over and review?
Yeah, we can do at least one line in the meantime. Several things. Did you get a copy of on the community corrections?
No.
It's not that there was anything in particular there, other than we probably shouldn't have talked about anything about that. That was the other certified.
Okay, yeah.
When I have Tina making copies of it, I apologize, I should have done it as I sent it to her, but I didn't ask her to make copies. We received word in terms of the judicial district. Community corrections is funded by grant to a significant degree, as I understood it, it's standard in the 8. But it also has an element of the administrative function that isn't covered by grant. And that's dependent a bit upon how much money they have available to them. And I don't have that in front of me, but it spreads out over the counties, Gary County being by far the largest, about 70%. And the administrative costs can be attributed to them based upon numbers. Dickinson County is next, I think, at 18%, then Marion, then Morris. Morris is at 4%, we're at 8 or whatever that difference is. It amounts to a couple $1,000s to us in terms of cost factors, which we need to review and approve in terms of the willingness to accept our responsibility for that portion of the cost.
Could you speak up a little bit? We need to talk louder.
Yeah, much voice today, I'm sorry. I'll try to do a little better. Yeah, so the total cost attribution is Gary County is at $18,270.91, Dickinson at $4,698.23, Marion at $2,088.10, and Morris County at $1,044.05. and they were asking that we submit that to our respective boards to determine willingness to reimburse Geary County for the above stated costs. And if we have any questions, to let them know. So it's kind of an administrative function, but based upon the ministerial duties that are utilized for running the program, that's how they're outlining it. And they're doing it, as I understood, I did make a phone call back about that, and that is in here. It's based upon caseload throughout the judicial.
That is for a full year, correct?
Yes, it's my understanding.
Need a motion on that?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do we need to take action on that?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so are you ready to make a motion on that? Is that what you're ready to say there, Randy?
No, I just wondered if that's what we need to do, or whether it's budgeted, whether we pay it, or just.
Well, the way she worded this, I mean, it sounded as though they were asking for approval at this point, and I guess partially because depending upon how the grant funds come in for juvenile justice as well as community corrections, there sometimes is a variance on how much of that we pay. The percentages wouldn't change because that's based upon caseload, but they got these dollars based upon their monthly cost reports.
It fluctuates up and down.
Yeah.
It goes up and down, depends on what happens. So that's, I just figured it's part of our budget, that's why I was asking that.
Well, if it's not, I should make a motion to go ahead and accept that. Was that okay with you, Mr. Jan?
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the $2,088.10 distribution of administrative costs for the operation of the Community Corrections Program for the 8th Judicial District. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I do have some good news roughly though on the juvenile detention, which is kind of still in the making of juvenile detention. I think we pay, what, $13,000 or something like that a year for our portion. We're actually going to divide that. Have you heard anything about this? We're going to divide it from juvenile detention into juvenile care facility. Because some kids really don't need to be detained, but they do need care services for a period of time while cases are pending and so on. And the state pays mega dollars for that. And by dividing it in half, well, not exactly in half, I think we're going to donate something like 12 beds to that, and then the other beds to still remaining as detention. But I think they pay enough money to where they're saying that if it goes the way we're thinking, and it's still in the works, but if they think, then we will actually reduce our costs up to 50% and maybe more.
And that's, just as a commentary with that, that's the whole, last year they completely redid the juvenile justice sequence of things and tried to make it more community-based.
Mm-hmm.
And in theory, that's great, except it's like so many other unfunded mandates. Here you are, but we have no idea what it is you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because before, like you had Junction City or Hutchinson with Bob Johnson's, and so most everything would run through there, and they coordinated with placement and all of that. Much of that then went away, but they didn't substitute anything in it.
Mm.
So this whole last year we've been going, what do you want us to do with these kids? There's a number of them that do not need to be incarcerated in essence or detained. They should be in another community-based setting, but there is no community-based setting, hasn't been created yet, which is exactly what you're speaking to. They're finally starting to filter into that and go, well, you know what, I think we better find something that meets the statutory requirement, and it's 135?
Is what?
135 a day or something like that.
Oh, I think it's more than that.
I know Bob Johnson's recently, the last I got was 135, but they vary a little bit from facility to facility, but it's just an astronomical cost
Yeah.
for detention. And so if you can find another way for kids that are in their teens, for example.
Are you talking about the cost of the detention portion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that has gotten to be so excessive.
Mhm.
It's hard for the various counties to afford it.
And regulate it,
Yeah,
right, oh
yeah.
my goodness.
And candidly, it's a different social environment, let's do it that way, than if you can place them in a different kind of setting where there's probably less stress for a lot of kids who really don't warrant the kind of supervision that they're getting in those kinds of settings. So glad to hear that they're running something new.
Yeah, he presented Sean Bradshaw, right, is our director over there, and he presented a beautiful outline proposal. And they've been working really close with the state, and they say that the requirements and regulations from detention to care just neck and neck with just a few little tweaks. And, and we oftentimes have a lot of empty beds, so we actually
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
space for it, so.
Yeah, that would certainly be good if we could find
Yeah.
a substitute for just that straight, here you go, and that's all we've
Yeah,
got.
exactly. So, anyway, just want to throw that out. Okay.
We've been up and down with that up in there. I mean, 'cause they've raised their different way of paying for things, and we went up and come back down, so it seems like something new every 2-3 years, something new up there.
Always looking for new ways of doing, yeah. It's a good team over there. I tell you, they keep up on the statutes and the laws, and boy, they just,
Well, our legislature did a lot of that at the end of that particular session, and did not do a lot of guideline building at the outset for what community-based placements were going to be. So for the last year, we've all just been struggling with that, to be honest. And now, as they catch up to that a little bit, like, yeah, we need to, we put them in a position of having to do this, now we need to figure out a way for them to be able to do it, and what those programs will look like, and how we can better place these kids in the communities where they're from, as opposed to taking them immediately and putting them into a detention facility. So it may work out well, who knows?
well, I think isn't that an alternative? I heard something mentioned because a lot of times when you have kids that don't meet the baseline for detention, the new thing is just put them back in the home,
Yeah.
which has not been usually, or been proven to be maybe the smartest, but.
When they choose to run away from home and they know exactly how to do it, it's difficult to put them back there and expect the parents to keep them at home. Because they don't, they crawl out the same window and they leave the same way they did before. And so, yeah, that's been a struggle. So you're needing that in-between process, and that's speaking from doing a lot of juvenile cases too. I sit there and think, oh, what are we gonna do with these kids? But it does sound like a few of those kinds of programs are coming online, which will help us a lot, I think.
Sounds good. It sounds, I'm really encouraged about it. It sounds really nice. Do you have anything else you can
You guys
take on?
switching off a little bit? I'm trying to think if there was, let's see, what else did I have? Yeah, one other one we could talk about. I spoke with Courtney via email, and I made a few phone calls to talk with her again this morning. There is software that the various law enforcement agencies in the county need to feel that they I don't disagree with them, need to acquire and invest in. It's video redaction. They get regular requests for open records for video types of evidence, that sort of thing. And there's elements of it that are not necessarily open, so in order to be able to properly and orderly way redact that and show what they did and what's been done, so it's not been overly doctored, they need some equipment, some software primarily, and then I think a little bit of hardware that goes with that. Their total estimated cost on that for the whole project was $10,000. The software and service package, and I'll make copies of this for everyone, it's $5,033.70, and then the system that it'll run off of is $2,989.25, and then they added an additional $2,000 for a desk that's lockable, et cetera, for the system, DVDs, flash drives, et cetera, any other attendant costs that they may have, rounding it to $10,000. The participating entities in it would be Hillsborough PD, Marion PD, Peabody PD, Marion County SO, and then the county attorney's office, so 5 of them. And they would split it 5 ways, as I understand it, on the $10,000. And they all plan on, usually, it looks like taking that out of their diversion funds, which would be an appropriate expenditure of those funds, so that each take $2,000 contributed to it. The company prefers only to get one check on this, and talking with Courtney, so they would probably do it through her office in terms of that's where the check would be generated, but she doesn't have that kind of money in her singular budget. So she and I talked about having the contributions made from all of the entities into a fund, and I need to talk to Tina about that. I haven't yet, where we could let that lie, and then pay the $10,000 out of a single check, probably through the county attorney's office. Then there's 1 or 2 individuals in each office who would have access. It would be kept at the sheriff's office, and what they really want is either a memorandum of understanding, or if it's necessary, an interlocal. I think a memorandum will probably do it to kind of cover all of those points. So I went over that with her. I've done something similar to that with different task forces where they are all cooperatively working together in one county. So I'll probably try to draw something as a starting point for them to look at as a template, and let the city attorneys for each of the cities look at them as well, and see if everybody can kind of give their input and put something together for that. But that's just by way of information for you at this point. The county's element of it would be we have the sheriff's department as well as the county attorney, so there's $2,000 each or $4,000 total. But again, they're both, as I understood what she told me, in a position where that money is available. So it's not as though they don't have it available to them to spend for that purpose.
Is this, then, if the press wants to know where ask for the video, is there a policy already set for this?
That I haven't asked her. I assume so, because virtually every law enforcement agency I've worked with has one for that purpose. But
I wonder, since we're all going together on this, would our policies all be the same across the county, or will it differ from, like you said, you just go talk to each?
They may very well vary. I don't know that I see that as a stumbling block, because the request comes to the recipient agency, like Hillsborough PD.
Yeah.
They then come in and prepare the video at the request of whoever is asking for it. If there's anything to redact, it'll be consistent with their policy. So each of them can go ahead and exercise their policy, because they're the ones who prepare for their particular agency for the request. So it is nice if it's relatively uniform, but there may be some variations on that. I don't know. It's not something I've ever looked at with the other cities or anything. So.
It's just on the shooting deals within the states and stuff. It's some puts it out pretty quick, like.
Yeah.
And some holds it.
For quite a while.
Yeah.
Well, and as long as it's part of an active criminal investigation, they have the ability to hold it longer,
Right.
pursuant to the open records element of things. But at some point, if the investigation is complete, even then, it's still discretionary, and you end up going to, like Judge Powers, to get a ruling as to, okay, yeah, this is releasable, or no, it's not, depending on a number of factors. So. It gets more complex with that stuff because of there's the potential that you're still getting into privacy issues with other individuals who were not necessarily integral to that case, but were somehow tangentially involved in, well, okay, how much of that do we redact, and what do we take out, and how much is even available? So that's another reason why it takes a long time in some instances.
You know, they're pretty straight guidelines as to what can be, since it goes a little bit above and beyond just personal information.
I wish I could say yes to that, but there are not. I mean, the way that the statute reads, it just talks about active criminal investigations. If they're no longer active, then they're considered available to be open. But even at that, you can still say, no, accidental shooting. And you've got a bunch of really gruesome photos. The family has a real distinct interest in those not being publicized.
Oh, okay.
Okay, is that enough of a compelling need to take the transparency out of it or not? Usually at that point, I drop back to the 40th hunt. I send it to a district court judge and let them rule on what's going to be released and what isn't. And even in the interim, during the case, if an element of it is now closed out in terms of the investigation, the press is entitled to it if the court's going to allow it. So you turn it over to the judge to say, whatever you tell us we should release, we'll release. Kind of takes the heat off of the local law enforcement agency and lets the court step in and say, I'll do this or I won't do that or whatever. And it lets everyone come in and argue their particular position on it as to why it should be released and why it shouldn't. So we get past that issue.
That's not just a small issue.
No.
It creates a lot of.
No, you want to be, able to release whatever should be public record. I never have had an issue with that, but there's always going to be some competing interest in a lot of cases that may or may not prevail. And sometimes they're close enough that I'd really rather a judge made that ruling. I do it, for example, as a county councilor, as a city attorney, or whatever it may be. So we turn it over to court.
They get paid the big bucks, huh?
Yeah, that's what I guess we'll call that.
Bud's here.
Is Bud here?
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock, let's have Bud come in. Good morning, Bud.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Wonderful.
Good.
Okay.
talk about the transfer station fee. Get that done.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have no figures on it, I just wondered what your guys' thoughts are.
I have a resolution in my packet. Do you have it, Mr. Jans, the
No.
resolution?
I do not.
The resolution has the dollar amounts highlighted for you to make a decision on what you want it to be. And once you decide, if you decide to change it, we'll go ahead and Cherry will type up a new one and then
Okay.
you can approve it either this time or next time. So-
Okay.
I have the 2017 one. I don't know if that's the one you have.
2018 one.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I'm
So
just,
did you see it in your packet?
yeah.
Did you want, okay, so you know. Okay. So, as I see it here, you're looking, or what it says here at the moment, the proposal is $132 commercial fee and $81 residential fee. And I think that breaks it down a little more back here. $675 per month is what equals the $81. And the $11 per month for the businesses equals the $132. And then it goes into different classifications as to what they're dumping and the amount and so on and so forth, as it goes up the more
Right,
that they dump,
right.
or utilize, I should say.
Yeah, that's,
And that's pretty much the long and the short of it, am I?
yeah, that's what it is, has been in the past, so.
Okay. And all of this, that's the context of the resolution is the same, the only thing that's different is the dollar number, right?
That's if you decide to change it,
Yeah,
yes.
Yes.
Everything else is the same, so.
okay. So residential would still be 81. What is the, commercial rate right now? Is it 130, what's the?
Diane, what you're looking at is what is currently in
Yeah.
place.
So
One
now,
This is
so you're asking us to increase it now?
No.
Well, I'm
No.
just asking you what you want to do,
Okay,
yes. And if you want to leave it the same, or if you want to increase it,
okay.
that's what I'm asking.
That's where we're at right now.
So what you have today is
Where we are.
in front of you is where we are and where we have been for pretty much ever since we started with the
I think
transfer
so, yeah.
station.
From what I
And
understand.
so, you had talked about at different times whether you should raise that or not, since you're going into a project. And this is the time of year that we have to adopt this resolution, and it would be applicable for the next year to fund the budget. So it would be on this upcoming tax roll in November.
Okay.
Is it possible to, knowing that we're going to look for some cash somewhere for this building project, we don't know what the amount is yet, but, and I'm not really in favor of raising it, but yet there's a project here, so, looking at 5 years, maybe you raise it for 5 and with plans to go back to this. That's just suggestions. This is not no given thing or anything like that. It's just suggestions. It may be that if we look at it that way, that we raise it for 5 years for the payoff of part of the project or something.
And I know when Tina was addressing it before, you were talking about, if we raised it by $10 across the board, I believe it was, it'd generate about $50,000.
We looked at it only on the residential when we did that.
Yeah.
And so if you raised it $10 a year, then the residential only would generate 50,000. I didn't analyze if you raised it across, what the commercial would generate at the higher rate, so.
If that's in the rough area, then $20 to go to 101, we'd have to raise 100,000.
Yes.
So it would almost be, to me, important to have those figures, because he's just throwing out maybe 5 years. But if we knew that it was going to generate 50,000, 100,000, then we could determine how many years, if you want to go by a year.
Well, we do this annually, so
Yeah, it's
I
just
wouldn't
done
say
annually,
that
yeah.
you would say we're gonna raise it for 5 years. You would probably just address what you
1
wanna
year.
do for this year.
Okay, so this is a one-year resolution. Is that
Every
what it
year
is?
we do this resolution, yes.
Okay. So then if we go up $10 on the residential and $10 on the commercial, still be at $20. Or were you gonna take the commercial up even more?
No, I was personally, we want to leave the commercial and just raise the residential if we're gonna do anything at all, but that's just a viewpoint. I mean, you know, it's, you just said it, Diane, $10 a month or $11 a month for.
It's
how it
the
comes
year,
up.
that's for the year.
Yeah, but the $10 or $11 a month comes up to 132
Right.
commercial.
Gotcha.
And then,
That's what it breaks down.
and right now, we're setting at 7-something,
675
675, yeah. So,
a month.
you know, we always have the comparison that, well, residential always gets it cheaper than commercial. I mean, they always hit commercial more and more. So, I'm just throwing it out, whether we would raise just a residential and leave commercial alone. That's, it's just whatever you, what all we got to decide on. I mean, if we want to do it, maybe we don't even want to do it. I don't know what Kent thinks about the whole thing.
Well, I don't know that I'd be in favor of raising it just because, this isn't the only cost that the taxpayer has. I mean, most of them have a city bill or they have waste connections. A lot of the rural county and, waste connections is kind of historically almost raise their rates annually or at least every couple of years. And, it gets to be burdensome to take care of your trash. And for the amount of money, I mean, we're still looking at we're gonna have to finance some of the transfer stations, irregardless. And so to me, the benefit of raising it would be minimal when it comes to the whole overall scheme of things, looking at financing or lease purchase or whatever we end up doing.
I don't mind raising it some, because it is a big project. And versus financing, by raising it even $10 a year, that's gonna be, what, $1 or something a month. That's not that notable that I would think people would be so upset about it, versus interest in someone that will pay for financing. And I think anything we can save versus financing is a better way to go, myself. That's just my thought.
What we had when I come in on this same deal, like I said, this has never been raised since we've been here, or since I've been here, is we had about $102,000 a year payments, if I remember right, for the first, up till 2012. And that's the payments that we was making out of this fund, besides operating out of this fund. So,
Yeah, this fee completely pays for the entire transfer station operation.
Yes.
It is not funded, there is no part of it that is funded through ad valorem taxes. So this pays the salaries, the benefits, all the building the building costs, tipping fees, any equipment costs. It's all paid from this solid waste fee
we have
each
added.
year. And in the past, we also paid the bond payment out of there when we.
Yeah, yes, that 100,000, yeah. We've also, up to the recycling part, that all the equipment that we've bought, except for this grant that you got for that, has come out of this fund too for recycling, so
Actually,
that's.
I need to make a correction, because we did have, for the actual bond that we used initially, there was a levied fund that paid that bond. But we also had a place through the solid waste assessment fee where we were accumulating that
Money
for
for
like a
that, yeah.
refinance or
Yeah.
that's where we've saved up for the project. That's where those funds came from.
So we gotta have money in there to operate. That's one thing, is definite to do that. But with the project that we're going to look at, like everybody said, we know we gotta have some money somewhere. And where it comes from is our decision.
Does anybody know what waste connection charges the average resident? I don't either, but I'm thinking,
I know.
okay, how much?
Well, I just have a regular pickup. I mean,
Once a week?
Once a week with a regular, and some of the farmers have a larger container. I have the regular size. I pay $87.50 a quarter, or $87.75 a quarter. So right around 90 a quarter.
Okay,
So about
so,
just under $30.
Yeah.
okay, so even if we raise this $20, we're gonna be raising ours up to like $8.75 or so a month. We really can't do that for the service.
In town, it's considerably different to your residential in
Right,
town.
right.
It's about $3 to $4 usually in most towns per charge for, You know, like Peabody's, I think, 3-something, 350 for each customer,
Yeah, that's from Waste Connection.
from Waste Connections, yeah.
So they're not sitting there and charging more than that.
Per month. So that's-
Yeah, the cities have a little more leverage than
Yeah,
the rural people.
yeah, right, and that's one of the first times I've heard lately what it's charging me out
Yeah,
there.
you know, and of course, they meet with the cities
Yeah.
yearly
Yes, yeah.
to work that out, so,
Mhm.
you know, the cities have always had more leverage than the rural
Right,
customers.
right.
But there are a lot of rural customers on it because it goes northern Marion County, western and southern.
Mhm.
So that's roughly $22 a month. Isn't that $90 a quarter? I know I raised it, I bumped it up, rounded it off a little bit, but you're paying basically $22 a month.
$90 a month would be 30
Yeah,
or
it'd
quarter.
be
Mhm.
closer to 30.
Okay, no, wait, one. Maybe my, not good at work. I'm stuck. I'm trying to be stuck. I guess it's not working if it's stuck, I'm sorry.
All right, I guess I just, before anybody makes a motion, is the input of going to 91, that's $10 a month, $10 a year raise. Is that where we'd like to be? I mean, to pick some money up, I don't know if that's gonna cover all of it.
But I mean, the $81, I mean, the way I look at the budget, has been funding operations fairly well. I mean, you've stayed fairly.
And I think once you have a transfer station building that is sustainable, and you could probably even look at lowering that too, I would think. We didn't lower it when the bond was paid off because then we were trying to save toward a building, but
Right.
at some point, once you get your building squared away, you could definitely look at potentially lowering that,
That would be the goal, yes.
Yes.
providing your operations don't go up, because you don't ever really know what's gonna happen with the other counties or wherever we're hauling to.
I wonder, can we table this until we get what the cost is gonna be? We don't even know how much,
We need to have a resolution passed before July 1st
okay?
for this. So,
It'd be nice to know what the cost of, the estimated cost of the building would be. And
yeah, I
then
don't know that we
roughly
will
how much-
have that, but again, once you know the cost, this is gonna probably be a multi-budget year project, so you could, if you decide to do something on the next, I mean, it's gonna be more than one solid waste year that is affected by the project.
We would still have to go out and have, this would just be a way of paying back our bonds. Didn't you address that issue a week or two ago, Ken, about, was it geo bonds or some of the bonds to have in order to do this? Or somebody address it, did you address it? About, to go out and pay the bill on this transfer station, and this would just be.
Scott was talking about it.
Scott. Just, we still have to collect it, pay it back. I mean, it's, so, yeah, I don't know what the, like you said, Diane, I don't know where the total dollars, what we need, or anything like that got.
You know, it's kinda hard to make this decision without
Mhm.
knowing that.
I guess maybe for the first year you could do this, and like we do, you address this every year, so you could address it again. You wouldn't want to raise it 2 years in a row. I mean, but I hope the public would understand that we don't know where right now we don't know where we're sitting at.
Yeah.
When did, Call Valley say they would be coming back?
It's gonna be 2 weeks from today yet. He said last week would be 3 weeks when it would be done, and that's when the 60 days is up on the contract you guys signed, so.
Well, here's something to think about. We've had about an $800,000 cash carryover in that fund. Part of that needs to stay, probably at least 200 to 250,000 needs to be a cash carryover that stays with the fund. So that leaves the balance of that available for a project. And you know your project is probably, it'd be great if it's 800,000, but the way they were talking the other day, it's looking like over $1 million. So you have a shortage.
I'm thinking $1.5 million, maybe a little bit higher with some of
Yeah.
the first projections.
First projection was that, and then his next one, and then he's been talking to me, and it's gonna stay pretty close to what he told you the second time.
$1.5 million.
1.4.
1.4.
Yeah. And then There's not much in between 1.4 and 1.5, so.
And I think too, Lloyd was saying, I'm sorry, Scott was saying that there is some money in the general and stuff that we can start looking, where we could pull some. So,
I think that, I don't know where, I don't know all the background to it, how much they had, how much they borrowed to pay for that thing when they started. I thought this fund was set up just to pay everything back.
This fund was set up, there was a levied fund that was to pay that bond at the time.
What I'm getting at is maybe you forego this year and you'll know by next year what it's all at.
We'll have a lot better feel for it next year. We're just grabbing in the dark right now.
Yeah.
so I'd like to ask some of the people out in the audience, just, what do you say, Carl? Do you say raise it or keep it the same? You say raise it. Okay, what do you say, Phyllis? Hold on, sorry. What do you say?
I like to keep it the same.
And what do you say?
Same. 20 or more.
Okay.
I think everybody asked there, the answer was the same as Ken, that country, you know, they're paying for, if they have trash service, they're paying a little higher. The trash service.
But
they
if they're
have-
paying for trash service, that's a choice they're making.
Yes, yes,
They
correct,
don't-
correct.
They would have this available even if they didn't pay for trash.
Yes.
Sure, they could haul all of their trash.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just, we've got such a big county, it doesn't work to think I can haul my trash in very often. If I live in northwest, west, maybe some even southwest.
You know, Bud has told me there's more people that, surprisingly, I think when we've talked about this, that call in from 10, 15 miles away than what I even thought that there is.
Yeah.
It's an
I think
awesome
you mentioned
service.
you.
I do,
Yeah.
absolutely I do.
If you didn't have something coming to Marion, how did you do it before you didn't have something to come to Marion for?
If I didn't have a reason to come to Mary, would I then?
Yeah, I mean, that was, I'm just asking before you had a reason to come to Marion, or would you?
I would, yes. Yes, I would. Because you always have a reason whether to go through or pick up a prescription or something. Or just an errand. I mean, sometimes it just becomes, hey, today I gotta get rid of the trash. Sometimes that's the reason to come to Marion. So, yeah, I mean, for what you pay, the service that you get, to me, it's an outstanding service for the buck.
Yeah, for $10.
It is.
Residents.
I personally would like to at least wait a week on it if I can. I would like to really ponder on it. Because I'm really split. I can certainly see raising it. I mean, to me, I think that's the prudent thing to do, really, for the project purpose anyway. But I can understand the people's point of view as well. So I personally would like at least a week until we have a week to think about.
Sure. It just needs to be, you need to have something passed before July 1st, so by the end of
So
June.
we need to do it next month.
Or on payday.
Oh, yeah, pay.
Okay,
That's
so
if we ever have paid.
even if it's just till next Monday, that's fine with me. Just so we can think about it, ask around, ponder on it.
I can see if maybe they'll have something firm for us. But maybe they will. I'll check, see.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just don't like making decisions. I mean, $10 isn't anything really. $10 is minimal. I shouldn't be pondering that much over $10. I mean, really.
But if 15 would have covered it, you don't want to go back and raise it twice.
If 15 would cover it, you don't
Yeah.
want to go back and raise it
If you
twice.
raise it 10, now we pass it next year, you go back for another 5. And what I'm saying is if we did wait till next year after this, when is the project going to be over with?
Completed?
Well,
Well,
we don't
it-
know that we've gone ahead with it. but-
Right, but if we did go ahead with it, it should be completed, I think they said about 6 months after we got the bids. So we were looking at probably January,
Got
somewhere
much
in
money to
there.
pay for it while it's going on.
Right. I mean, really, I'm gonna give you my opinion, and take it for what it's worth. This is the year that you really need to be looking at increasing it to take care of this project. Because I understand that some of you want to be able to pay for us out of county funds, but and Scott mentioned this the other day, that's gonna be tricky to do. I mean, we might be able to pull it together, but since we know that we're short, even if you just raise it $15 or $20 for 1 year to get the project built, then you're gonna reassess it and relook at it in the next year. So if you're gonna raise it, I think this is the appropriate year to raise it, just because of the project. And then at some point in the future, you'd look at going back down. Because you've already, I mean, you had a funding source that you could have gone after, which would have been a sales tax, which would have been for the county to be able to, that would have given you the most freedom as far as what you could do, which we didn't do, which is okay. I just hate for you to move forward with no revenue source to pay for it, thinking that you're gonna have enough to cover it in your reserves. And I don't know that you're gonna find that and be comfortable and be able to keep operating, especially in a tax-lit environment. So that's, you obviously keep pondering, do whatever you need to do, just be ready to go by payday with the resolution one way or the other, so.
See, now I don't mind raising it $10, $15, I really don't. Where I'm gonna get to be a real bear is when we get the budget and we raise millage in addition to come to that. I'm fine with $10, $15, Randy, whatever. I think, you know, for what you get for the month increase, it's nothing really that's gonna break the budget. I can't picture that it would break the budget. We could all cough up an extra couple bucks a month. Okay, we win.
I'll just make a motion then, and I'm gonna throw it out, that we raise to $20 for this next year, for residential only, from 81 to 101. That would be my motion, to set these.
Always runs away. All right, I'm gonna second the motion. So I have a motion on the floor to take it from $81 to $101 a year for residential to help fund the transfer station project. Do I have, I'm sorry, Carl, go ahead.
Why don't you just make it even $100?
Or 99.
Why not? That's easy on everybody.
Carl, that's not too bad an idea. I was stuck on 20 even, so I guess I would.
You gotta compromise.
I would compromise with Carl out there.
So you-
Take your motion off the table.
I would like to
Redact it.
rescind my motion of $101 and
$100.
Okay, so I have,
Nobody will notice.
I have a motion on the floor to raise it from $81 to $100 per year per resident. Do I have a second?
yes.
Second by Randy. Oh, no, you made the motion, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm seconding it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
All right.
Well,
Can't
we'll
oppose.
revise it and they can.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we can go ahead and do the revised resolution, and then you can adopt that either today or next week.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, what else you have, bud?
Okay, I just wanted to bring up something from the weed department. Had a complaint a couple weeks ago about, and from a citizen, and it was about a tree being killed, and, well, half killed. I checked it out, and the complaint's been resolved. It's not the county's fault, it's the weather's fault. That cold snap we had late, after the 80-degree weather we had, the sap started coming up, and because I called an arborist, and he explained to me what the tree looked like before I said anything. So he had already looked at over 100 trees this year already on the situation, and I went back to the landowner.
It's okay?
He's fine. He's fine. So
Very good.
we're good. I just wanted you guys to be aware of it, didn't want to hear it through the grapevine that something happened. I like to keep you guys abreast on everything that happens in my department, so.
I think there's quite a few trees.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, there is.
Had a friend that had one checked out, and it was over 100-year-old tree, and it did that.
Yeah.
My first ever.
Yeah, it's they're close enough. They said, what happens is the sap is going up and it's in the cells, and then it's like a pipe. It freezes and it bursts. Well, it bursts the cells. Well, the sap can't keep going through the cells to where it needs to go, so it's not gonna survive. Half of it will, but the other half won't. But anyway, that's all I have.
That's all you have?
That's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you, bud.
And I'll try to get maybe some information
That would be nice. Appreciate
on
it.
our project, so. Go
Don't
from
mean
there.
to hurry them, but give them a
Okay.
hope.
Yeah, I will. I will.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, your turn. What's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good, good. So you guys all have a copy of the, I don't have a copy of what you're proposing yet. Did you get copies made for us?
Yeah, I did.
I made 5 copies of them. I gave them to Tina, in case.
Big white envelope. Yep.
There they are. They didn't run away.
I have another copy of it.
And did you want a copy of that? I know I have other copies I put, I bet you I will. Things we did at the meeting. Did you say yes? Did you say you'd like to have a copy of that? Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't know if you guys wanted to take a moment to look it over or not, but basically, I am able to reduce our budget a little bit from last year to this year, mainly because of the contract services that are now with me. I did go ahead, and this is gonna be a questionable amount, which is gonna be probably based upon if you guys allow raises, or depending upon if the wage survey would come out, any of that. So what I basically did on the personal services line, I did like a 2.5% for everybody, everyone in the office. So the wages did go up a little bit in this category. Everything else, as you can tell, has been pretty much either stayed the same or went down. Like I said, looking at approximately a $4,500 decrease from last year to this. It is pretty much all written out what I'm thinking or doing in each line item or category. I don't think I probably need to read those to you on each one. The one that I do want to point out, just so it doesn't look like I'm putting something in there that you guys go, now wait a minute. Let me find what page that's on. Okay, on page 7, under your contractual agreements, and this is going to address ending the contract with the consulting firm that you guys were with and going with me. But I just want to point out one thing. I did request keeping just like 5,000 in that line item in case something would come up, I would get sick, or we needed somebody just to fill in that spot on a job. So I requested just leaving 5,000 in there. That's still cutting it 15,000 and some. But I just wanted to point that out so it didn't look like I was putting something in there that you weren't aware of. Okay, that's my only thing I wanted to bring to your attention, honestly. Everything else is pretty straightforward how it's always been. Like I said, I'm just kind of reducing it a little bit, increasing the personnel line. But there again, that's going to be based on
The pay plan
Right.
results, yeah.
Yep, so, that's it on mine.
Well, that sounds wonderful.
So I have a question for you.
Yes, absolutely.
We've talked about he was hired as a
Uh-huh.
contract and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
And I've got somewhat a pretty good idea, but how much more workload did it put on our employees besides you? I know you're a pretty big part of that, but how much to the other field personnel? Did it put any more?
On, as far as doing the studies?
Yeah.
Nothing. At this point, nothing. I would like to train a couple of them, only because I feel it is in their best interest to understand
how the studies work and how we arrive and how we put them in the different tables and actually arrive at the values that we're using. But as far as impacting them, what I'm understanding is in the past, the appraiser did not go out and really do a lot of re-inspection, which is what I kind of did last year to learn the county.
Right.
So this year I'm staying in and I'm just doing more of the studies and then the QC work, the quality control work on what they've data collected. So as far as them being impacted, nothing, except me training them a little bit at some point.
And that's just what you're talking about, pulling them out, having 3-hour class some days, 3-hour class, or no? Or-
Well, when I do the different phases, I'll probably have them come in and show them what
Okay.
I use the state's templates on
Okay.
everything. And so when I put the data in the templates, I'll probably have them come in and just kind of watch where and how I'm doing the templates.
Good.
Just so they have an idea.
As you know, we have had problems, like you said, somebody gets sick, somebody drops out for a while, and nobody to depend on, and I think that's really what you're trying to tell me, that information is that we're trying to prepare for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Yep.
You're doing a good job.
Well, thank you.
I like that. Is that all you have?
That's it.
Okay, that
Everything
sounds
else is going
wonderful.
great. All right.
Well,
Thank
looks
you.
like I appreciate you keeping it lower.
You bet. No problem.
That's always a winner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, anybody see, if you see Ed out there, will you send him in?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And it's your turn.
Where you guys have, do you guys have my report?
Mhm.
Okay. Where you guys have that, I'm gonna hold off on that for now. Because I want to touch on these other things first, just in case I get called out. The air conditioner out at the Marion Station hasn't been working for almost 5 days now. We've had Paul up there. Come to find out, the compressor's out, so we need a new compressor. Cost of that is $2,950.
What is a complete unit?
Got it probably $8,000 for a furnace or conditioner.
Well, yeah, I mean, but this compressor in the unit outside,
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's outside. And him measuring it, he thinks that we need to go up to a 2-ton, adding in bedrooms. He doesn't think, he thinks that's part of the issue. But it's been running anywhere from 80 to 90 degrees in that building. So. If it's okay with you, if it's okay with you guys, if I can get approval to go ahead and get this moving on where we don't have air conditioner.
yeah, something.
And you have that, that's, you have the money in your budget for that, right?
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
I mean, we gotta have air conditioning.
No, I understand that. I was just looking at the financial.
Yeah, well, either
Part.
we'll pull it out of capital outlay, we'll figure something out.
Do we still have a sweating problem?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If we put a new system in with Paul,
I think that would take care of that.
No, he thinks it's still gonna sweat. We either need to install dehumidifier and probably wrap them pipes. That's what his suggestion is. Because I asked him why he was up there on that. But yeah, the sweat problem's still there.
It's wet bad enough that it leaves
Oh, it's-
water on the floor.
Oh, yeah, it's ruined the tiles in the ceiling.
That's where they drip onto.
Yeah.
And he
That-
thinks, oh, go ahead.
Is that price didn't include that probably, wrap
No.
pipes.
No, that's just the labor and the installation of that compressor.
But you think wrapping it would solve the problem, is that what you
Coil.
think?
Wrapping it and put a dehumidifier in would solve the sweating problem.
Just a portable or one that's connected to the?
I think one that's connected to it.
Because that's a pretty good expense then too, one that's system included.
But you're getting a lot of damage from not fixing it right, right?
Yeah, from the ceilings. I've thrown away, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 tiles already from the ceiling because they were so moldy.
That's what I wonder about is how much moisture gets in there, it's mold. When is that going to take place?
Well, and that's why them tiles I've been getting rid of them. We haven't even had them up there because, and I haven't replaced any of them because of it.
That's the only thing that's affected by the moisture. It's not dripping on something else that
No,
you
it's
get mold
just-
that you couldn't, you'd have to have remediate.
It's just the tiles right now. The ceiling, these ceiling tiles.
You get into mold remediation, that's
Yeah, that's a,
a whole nother animal.
that's a mess.
And he didn't give any idea what that would cost.
To wrap it and do the,
And-
no. My big concern was, right now, was to get,
Keep guys cool.
get this cool. And it's still gonna be a couple days to get the parts, so.
So we know.
Unless I make it to Wichita today on a transfer, and I'll pick up the parts for him.
What was well, I guess, Commission, where do you stand? 'Cause I think, how old's that unit, 15 years?
No, they think about 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Just built
10
it
years,
up.
10 years.
Yeah.
10 years old.
It's going to start being used a lot more than it ever has been. That's one of the reasons why they didn't expect to use it as much as we were using it.
Well, and they never used the air conditioning.
Right.
So that's where we're coming up with these issues.
Yeah, for several years, the product was never used. It's not that it's outdated.
Right.
I guess my feelings, Commission, I'd sort of like, if we do something, I'd like to be guaranteed we don't have problems.
I mean, I do have $14,000 in capital outlay that we can move if we need to, so.
Well, I don't see any point in fixing it halfway. I mean, like it's gonna continue doing more damage, that's kind of counterproductive.
So, you want me to see if he'll do furnace and all, or just the wrapping of, and the dehumidifier?
What all, you said the dehumidifier and the wrapping would solve the problem.
He thinks so, yeah.
What's the problem then with the furnace?
We're not seeing anything now with the furnace. Furnace is okay right now.
I think you better go ahead and get a cost on that. I'd be in favor of doing.
Of replacing the furnace?
No, I mean, getting a cost on wrapping and the centralized dehumidifier, because that's gonna be some expense there.
Right.
With the new unit, was that going to be a new 8-coil furnace then probably?
It's the new, that end coil or whatever on top of the furnace.
Yeah, it's 8-coil up there.
Yeah, that cooling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just be a
Yeah,
new
because
8-coil.
it has the old Freon in it.
Okay. Be a new 8-coil up on top of the heater, which slides in and out, and usually
Yeah.
it's done built where they do that. And like I said, the wrapping and that, I'd say,
So right now the price is $2,950 for the 2-ton AC unit for outside, the coil, the installation, and an installation of above. So maybe the installation, he already has that on there.
Of wrapping it?
Insulation of above is what he's got.
Yeah, that was good.
The only thing that's not on there is the humidifier, but,
Can you verify?
and I'll verify that with him. Yeah, I'll verify that with him.
But you make a motion, go ahead with that, what he's got there, Tim?
Yep.
I'd say.
Well,
If that's what everybody wants to do.
Okay, what do we got? Randy?
I'm just saying, if that's what everybody wants to do is fix what he's got bid there.
I think we have to.
Yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the bid of $2,950 at this point for the proposal of the compressor of 2 ton and as described in the information sheet? Well, then I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you, and I'll get you the cost of that dehumidifier for it. I'll have them do that. I do have the new ambulance outside if you guys want to look at it. I do have that, so. And then, we did have to put a new radiator cap on it. It was spewing antifreeze, we were losing antifreeze out of it. So Merlin put a new cap on it. So that stopped that problem. Moving to my report, we had 121 calls for the month of May, 28 transfers, 7 cardiacs, 33 medicals, 4 standbys, 1 motor vehicle accident, 9 falls, 34 non-transports, and 5 deaths. We, the year before, we were at 111. So we were 50 calls for the year so far up to May. We're 50 calls over last year at this time. As it is right now. Any questions over that so far? We billed out $75,530.51 for May. We brought in $52,981.50. We had to write off $29,122.91. For the year so far, we've billed out $421,864.63. We've brought in $243,433.83. We had a refund of $1,046, and then we wrote off $139,442.27 for the year so far.
So Ed, I have a question
Sure.
on your accounting here.
Sure.
Where do I see on here, you do CPR classes and things like that. Does that generate revenue?
It does. It goes into crew funds.
It goes into which ones?
Crew funds, which is separate from all of this.
Oh, I see. Okay. And that's on the other budget. That's on your
That's on our budget.
Budget thing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just collections, accounts receivable for what we're bringing in and
Okay.
for insurance companies.
Okay. Are you scheduling any new classes for this fall district?
August.
August?
Yeah, we have one gonna start in August.
And that's for EMT?
EMT.
Okay.
So far, we've had 2 pass out of the 6 so far. Total. They took their written and passed.
And the others didn't take the test yet, or did they
Not
pass?
yet.
Okay.
We had one take the written but didn't pass it, so he's gonna go back. And then the other 3 haven't taken, no, we've had 2, sorry. 2 failed the written, so they'll have to go back. And then, we still have 1 that hasn't passed his practicals, He goes back in the end of July to take them, and then the other two haven't even taken it because of harvest. With harvest started. Yeah, they're not even, they're waiting. So. I do have applications in my office, and I've called, and hopefully this week we'll get some interviews set up for that paramedic position. So,
Is that the part-time one?
full-time.
Full-time. Is that the one that's just your empty space to replace with one person
That quit.
okay, okay.
Other than that,
That's all you have?
that's all I have right now.
Okay.
So if you guys have a few minutes, you can come run down and check out the ambulance. We're out in the parking lot.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
Ed.
good day.
Yep.
Should we move into it in that recess? Ready to look at ambulance?
If you'd like to take a 10-minute recess and go look at the ambulance, that would be fine.
I'd like to make that motion, yes, in that recess.
Well, if you want me to take a motion for a recess, do we? You just take a recess. Yeah.
Just declared.
Okay. Let's do it.
Okay, first of all, I would like to go into executive session to talk about personnel for maybe 5 minutes.
Okay, can we do it at the end of your presentation?
Yeah.
I was gonna say at the end of the meeting, but then say she said 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. I did a little bit of a cost study, because as you know, we're having a hard time finding nurses. And so this was kind of a good time to maybe look at some of our programs that we're providing, and one of them is the school screens. Currently, we have provided a nurse that is contracted through the Marion County Special Ed Co-op. And that, the agreement is $5,566. And the nurse services 5 of the districts, does hearing and vision screenings for K through 12, all students, and also OASIS. This, as you can see, I kind of estimated the mileage based on how many trips to each school. And then the hours that just the screening takes. That's not preparation or like when we hire someone new, we'll have to orient them to the process, the procedure. That doesn't even include the scheduling that that person would do. If you look down the page a little bit, the hearing equipment, it does cost to calibrate. This year I chose, we have actually 3 pieces of equipment that get calibrated. Some time ago, we got an OAE, which is used on infants, and we got that free through a program several years ago. And that I didn't calibrate because we no longer use it. So I thought, I'm not gonna get that calibrated, so our cost went down a couple $100, but it's still $240 to get the equipment that we were using for the hearing screens. The trainings, the nurse would need to get trained in hearing and also vision. And that, the fee is about $125. The mileage, usually that's in like Lawrence. And so the hearing screening is 2 days because it's a practicum 1 day.
It can be 3, depending on how long the theory part takes and then the practicum. Then the vision training can be done in 1 day. But I just kind of estimated the cost of that, and the total would be about $6,387 if we hire a nurse. I have been talking with Dr. Shepherd at Special Ed because I don't want to leave any of the schools, high and dry, because most of the schools don't have the equipment. Now, Special Ed Co-op, Dr. Shepherd was going to check, but I know in the past, when I had been school nurse at Hillsborough, the speech and language pathologists had some type of hearing equipment. They do have some vision equipment, but he wasn't sure as to what it was. So I just kind of wanted you to be aware that I am not going to leave him, high and dry. I gave him some estimates that he's going to take to his board tonight, and then we're kind of working some of that out to see if you turn that sheet over, we have the equipment I have listed there that is the audiometer, and then it has a /TYM that was purchased in 2002 for $3,294. That if special ed contracts, like if they should hire a nurse to contract, would there be any objection to handing that equipment over to Special Ed Co-op, or he said, or would you want us to purchase it? So I'm just kind of putting it out there to see what your thoughts are. Rather than having it sit at our office, we no longer do Can Be Healthy screens. So
It'd be nice if you could get a new one for it. Something. It still works well?
yeah,
It's in good
and
shape?
it was calibrated and just recently, so.
But the trade-in value of that equipment would be nil.
Probably since it's older, some of the parts on it, we ran into that problem. It was a couple of years ago. We had the company that services it, they have older equipment, so they had some parts that we could take off of that. So it probably.
So we might, them, especially Co-op, may be doing us a favor.
Well,
If they would want to take that over.
we wouldn't have that calibration cost, which we don't use that hearing equipment, and I don't see us using that in the future.
So then why
If
would we
we
continue to
don't-
calibrate it?
If at that point, when we calibrate it, we take it over to Special Ed because the Gordon Stowe is the company that calibrates it, and they come out of Topeka, Lawrence area, and if Special Ed, parents as teachers, and us all bring our equipment at Special Ed, then we share the cost of the travel, and so it's a lot cheaper for us.
But I'm
And
saying,
at
if
that
we don't
point-
use it and we won't use it, then why would we get it? Even if we get it cheaper, why would
Because
we do
we
it?
had to get it calibrated, because at that point I didn't know that
Oh,
we
okay,
would
so
have
one-
an issue, because we scheduled this was calibrated, I think in April or earlier, and so we scheduled that ahead. It's an annual thing.
But going forward, if we had it,
We
we're not gonna
won't,
use it.
no.
Okay, that was my
And
point.
that's why I didn't calibrate that other piece of equipment.
Okay.
And that other piece of equipment, parents as teachers has their equipment like that, so the services are being provided, just not by us any longer.
So what do you recommend?
Well, if we no longer do the screens, I mean, it's, how many years old? It's like over 10 years old, so I wouldn't have a problem just giving it to them or asking them for the calibration cost,
What was that about?
$240.
That was done this year.
That was, yeah, just, I think it was paid in April or something.
Oh, $240, you said?
Yeah.
There's a lot of money to get all of that stuff, so, I mean, I don't wanna be petty, but a lot of times, like the next one, I mean, this is a lot of equipment, a lot of money here. And even to just get the calibration cost, I mean, they're still dollars ahead if they use it.
Right, yeah. And they may offer, I could ask him, you know, if they're gonna contract the nurse and we are no longer doing it, I can ask them what they would give us for it. You know, and I could probably call the company, see what if they would take it in, see what a trade-in value would be.
So
But,
is it, since it's calibrated, does it have to be done then annually?
yeah, yeah.
Well, you got a lot of choices there that you could do.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to let you be aware that this is where we're heading with that. And I'm not sure, I know that we have had schools, there are some schools that don't have nurses. And some of the schools they're part-time, and this would add to their time. And I don't know, they will have to contract, but I think, you know, I told, one of them was Gossel, and they had called because they're ready to schedule already. And I told Denise, you know, we're working on it, but I don't want to leave them without services.
It would be interesting as to what a person would offer. Just, it would be, what would you offer, what it would, I mean, just see what they would say.
And
I'm surprised.
I can ask
Anyway.
Dr. Shepherd.
Mhm.
So that's with the school screens.
Okay.
Now, with child care licensing, this kind of shows you the cost. And that, right now, we have 18 facilities in the county that provide some type of child care. One of them is a child care center, and 2 of those are preschools, then the 15 are homes that are currently, they have to they have to certify annually. And for the homes, it takes about 1.5 to 2 hours to do an annual survey. And so for the homes, you can see kind of an estimated cost. However, on all these estimations, I took the lower end of it. Providers who have real good record keeping, have it all there, who have done it before, they know kind of what they're looking for, the surveyor, so it takes a lot less time. Also, if there is anything that the surveyor finds, that's environmental, kind of, that they have to come in compliance with, after 5 days, the surveyor has to go out and check to make sure that that has been corrected. If it's a paperwork issue, the surveyor doesn't really have to, like if they're missing a shot record or something, that can be faxed in. So the surveyor doesn't have to go on site with that. But the preschools take about 2 to 2.5 hours because they have more kids. It takes more time. The center, which we only have one in the county, that does take 4 hours because they have to be there at nap time, at lunchtime. They have to be there during a certain span of time. And those again too, if there's any out of compliance measures, then they may have to go back on that. The others are if we get a report that someone is out of compliance, or if the state hears something, then the surveyor has to go out on those compliance checks. A complaint, if there's a complaint on a daycare or an injury, that can take, usually if there's an injury, that takes more than an hour. But if there's a complaint, that's anywhere from 1 hour to 18 hours that the surveyor can spend on that. So I kind of did some work on that. The orientation and travel, that training travel for the person who would do the surveys, usually we figure about a week of training. That would be a lot of online training, some on-site training, some training with the regional surveyor. The IT equipment they do when they go out, the surveys are all done online if the internet is working and they have an air card that they take out with them. If everything works good, then they can get that paperwork done right at the site. They take a portable printer with them, a laptop, and then they can print everything out and they can both sign it at that visit. If that doesn't occur, then they have to go back to the office, do more, and obviously that'll take more time. And you can kind of see some, again, these are just estimates, and they have the lowest time spent, and that comes out to $8,050. The grant this year, if we take it, is $6,806. And then our fees, right now, last year, if you recall when I came up and did the budget for you, we collected $2,156. However, we have been without a surveyor since February, so all the surveys done in March, April, May, and those we can't charge for because someone from the state is going out to do those. So that's kind of the bulk when our surveys are due. So, like in March of last year, we had 217. May, we had 435. In June, $378. So that's a big chunk of that, $2,100. Now, there are several options that we can do. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a nurse that did that. It could be someone who the contract requires that a surveyor is has 4-year degree in nursing, early childhood or elementary ed, child development, human development, social work, or related field. So, we could try to hire,
Like on a contract?
yeah, either on a contract or do a part-time just for the childcare licensing.
So that means you could hire someone like a retired teacher?
Right. So that is where I would like to, can I go into executive session?
Are you done then with all your presentations?
I am done with the cost presentation, and I would like to go into,
So you have more than to present when you come back out on your department?
no,
Okay, so then you're
Yeah.
complete.
yeah, I'm complete. There's a lot of ifs, but, so.
Okay, so I guess we'll go into executive session. Nothing's going in here this morning. Pretty fair, pretty smooth, actually.
Yay!
Mm-hmm. Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm here for my budget presentation, and I can live with the same I have had. I didn't know how many needed them.
Okay, and you want one too, right? Did you want one? Okay, I'll get you one.
But if personnel goes up,
Yes, please. That's what my little note meant there, so I think that's what was turned into us at 0% raise, so.
So you're pretty flat, stayed the same, pretty much.
I try to live within my budget.
I like that. That's good. Anything else on the budget you have?
Not really. Need to go back and work on the personnel thing since Ashley sent me a reminder, so.
What is that?
What reminder?
On the,
Oh, the questionnaires.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know, oh. No, she didn't go over these with you, the quarterly reports. No.
No.
They're just pretty much for information. Since we have paid off the jail early, that's affected our carry forward.
Mhm.
And then that just gives you a 3-year picture of where we are. And then if you go down to the next page, that just shows you where all the funds are.
Mhm.
And then the next page shows the pledging
Okay.
and the interest, what we're earning per month, which has gone up.
What is the interest rate right now, do you know? It hasn't changed much in the last.
No,
That's all right, I'm sure.
some of the banks are going up. Central National is going up, and so is Cottonwood Valley. And I've sent out an email telling them that as the CDs come due, we will ask for competitive bids. So,
Good. Okay.
the next page is just a simple graph.
Mhm.
And then the last page is where we are on vehicle funds. We collected, the first quarter we collected $612,000 or plus that for the state. Not quite 275 in taxes for the county. And this doesn't show it, but we have turned over, I think, $62,000 from last week. And that will show up on your next report, which will be due quite soon. Just got back from a 3-day conference in Manhattan and need to go through my notes and see all the new things coming out. They still haven't given us a go on the driver's license, but I think it will be shortly on the new system. The new tags they say will start August 1st. The tags will be printed and mailed from, in Wichita.
So they'll be coming out of Wichita.
But, so we will need to get an very accurate address from them. And we have some cities in Marion County that use post office boxes, and for some reason that doesn't always get delivered. So for those people, we are offering that we can have the tags shipped to our office and they can pick them up from us. So they did give me an option on that, because
Will we be getting something, some form of a notification or something of these changes in the mail or anything like that? You don't know yet how they're going to do that?
I think on the June renewals, I think they said they had a different.
I was just wondering how they're going to get that word out with all the changes.
What's that tag going to, what material is it going to be made out of?
It'll be made out of the same material, but it's a flatter.
What's a metal?
It's a metal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was concerned about that too, but it is a metal tag. And all the letters and numbers will now be in flat black because that shows up the best, since it's all being.
Oh, great. Do you have anything else you need?
No.
That's
It
it?
rained tonight.
Let's hope.
Yeah. I think most everyone's pretty well finished combining in the county, aren't they?
I think they're wrapping
No,
up.
well, I don't know, half maybe,
Half?
three-fourths.
Well, maybe then half the county needs rain and the rest doesn't.
Yeah, there's some that's still out there standing.
Oh, okay. Well, have a good day.
You too, thank you. Have a good day. Okay, Mr. Jantz, you're at the bottom of the pile.
I don't think I have anything left other than what we talked about earlier. That was my list.
Were you working on that resolution about paying for?
Mhm. I did them both ways as I indicated I would, so I thought unless there was a further consideration and you wanted it one way or the other, I'd just bring them both and you guys can decide if that works.
Are you going to be here next Monday? Is that on your schedule? Okay. Just curious. Sounds awesome. So that's all we have?
I think so.
Okay. Well, then I'll open it up to the public, if anybody out in the public has anything to say. Any comments, ideas? I'm hearing none. Randy, do you have anything?
Just a question, on your yellow pad, you got Peabody Mowing lost. Was that under administrative this morning? Did you have something?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is there something working, from what I'm hearing, there's something working between the city and us maybe?
Well, it was about the $200 fee that they had, well, maybe you can explain it to me a little bit, go ahead.
It looked like an exchange of services would be
Yes.
proposed in terms of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
runway.
hearing.
I think everyone wanted to find out a little bit more about connecting link on that, cost factors, that kind of thing. It's what was discussed and make a determination after they had that additional information.
That or, what I'm hearing was a road that was by on the west side, or east side of Peabody, maybe making some deals.
That's what we were talking about.
Okay.
Is it- Whether that's even is that a connecting link?
No,
or-
no,
Okay.
no, it's a 50-50 split between the city and county. The one half is theirs and the other half's ours.
How long of a road is it?
Quarter mile. It's not even a half mile, about 400,
Do you know since you brought up what they're asking to be done to the road? Is it a rock road?
It's rock road, it's a rock road. It needs, what it needs is, in my estimation, needs to be, the water's coming right to the middle of the road, it's running right down the gully, down the middle of the road, and it just needs to be graded up, both sides, and graded up, built up. And I think now with the traffic that we have on that road and stuff down there, that just a small two, I think it's only 9th to 8th, 1, 8th to 7th is 2, 6th to 5th is 3, and 5th, 9th to 7th, 8th. I think it's 3 blocks, what it is, but just do a total, bring it up, put some base rock down, get a good rock base on it to where the water's going back in the ditches and get away from the road. I don't think it's that big a deal, but I think that's what needs to be done too, because we do have a lot more traffic now since the Dollar General's opened up on that. So, I think it would be a good split for both of us, and that way no money exchange hands, period, if you want to pay.
And I guess so, I'm still interested in what it costs to do that road. And then we can divide that out.
Yeah, I
to
don't-
see what we would be
yeah.
paying for mowing. Because
Right.
I know the $200 mowing fee is not going in very good.
You mean, who's, on the people that's paying it?
On the people that realize that we're paying $200 to have.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
but that's what cities do. I mean, that's just the thing they do. That's nothing new. But get them taken care of. But I just think if we've got 7 lots down there, then I didn't check last week to see how many we had, but there's 7.
It's like 8.
8.
I wonder if we should find out how many lots we have throughout the county and then maybe contract out somebody to mow. It might be something worth looking at. Because,
Well, the road needs attention anyway, on our half anyway, so it's one of those deals. Take a look at it, go down there and see.
I have a lot of roads that need attention. So that's nothing new. There are a lot of roads that need attention. I'll grant you that. So, do you have anything else, Randy?
No.
Ken?
Nope.
I have a motion to adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 See you next Monday.